Poducer.
No, Mace, we like having you here. We need you.
That's how I feel as an editor for audio specifically, is like we have Descript for, audio podcasts. I think they might do video as well, but like I tried Descript to like try and shorten my own workflow. Right now it's shit. It's still shit, so I think I have some time left where I can continue to make money from what I do. There's going to be a point where I'm not needed anymore.
What does Descript do?
It can identify filler words and crutch words and like silences and
just,
take
like,
them out.
scoots.
But the edit itself, the cut is so janky. Like the cut is so abrupt. So when I was kind of demoing it to see if it could just like shorten my own workflow as like a service provider,
For sure.
I just ended up having to correct a lot of its mistakes.
Because it just didn't sound professional.
Yeah. No, I would never just like send it off as it was, because you can just like hear the cut in the audio. And over the past 3 years that I've been like editing, I've got it down to an art now, just
You
like
get it to, like,
conceal the edits. Like,
Here's the word you don't want.
Bring
Bring
surgically.
and then you just and it's like perfect timing. You're like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm very good at what I do.
Hell yeah. No, yeah, it's like they taught us that in school, and then once I knew that, I was like, I know how to like the amount of stuff I could cut out before the video, just entire like things that we don't need, like likes. I used to sometimes, if I really didn't like the way that I was talking, I'd take out like all the likes, and that was way too much.
That's why it's hard to edit yourself, probably.
Exactly, because
you get more annoyed by your own
you like
crutches.
hate your own. You're just like, oh my god, what was I saying? Oh. And then, so yeah, no, like I don't even do that anymore. But you can't do that with video.
Yeah,
it would
you
just
can't
be
hide
like,
it.
like every.
No, you'd just be like a YouTube vlogger.
Yeah, and if you do clips for Instagram or whatever, like that there's going to be hard cuts in that. So it doesn't really matter. But for a whole podcast, that would be so much time and effort.
And I think that's why I would get annoyed editing videos, because now I've become such a perfectionist in the way that I edit people speaking. Like, the goal is to make them sound more confident, and cutting all of like the fat makes people sound more confident ultimately.
Right.
But from a video, you just like can't hide it.
It's really hard
unless
to
you're
hide.
just like cutting back and forth between two speakers for no reason. Sorry.
Yeah, if you have both angles, you can do some trickery.
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, they never said that. You didn't see them say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then there's some people who just can't talk,
Yeah, basically rule number 1 is just try to talk better.
Yeah.
More well. I don't even know if that's how you say it.
More better.
More better. Talk more better.
What is that quote from Dumbledore? So words, in my not so humble opinion, are our most inexhaustible source of magic, or something like that.
Interesting.
Beautiful.
Love
Just
the reference.
poetry.
Mace. Pull it up. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to pull it up.
I love
I'm gonna
syntax.
pull it up because I definitely butchered the quote, but
No, you're good. Thank you for coming by. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Hell
It's
yeah.
a fun place to be.
Mace, are we recording?
yes.
Okay, cool. Always gotta check that. That's important.
It's rule number 1.
Yeah. The other day when I did Too Soft, I didn't even tell him this, but he'll see this. I was like halfway through, I was like, did I push record on the video? And I had like a mental freak out in my head. I was just like, please. And I did.
I also
I'm sorry, Finn.
host some people's like remote recordings on Riverside, and so that's like my number 1 job, is just to make sure that record has been pressed. And then
I've thought about using Riverside. There's so many different like platforms to use for podcasts to host them on,
yeah.
and record them through like Zoom. It's not, like one time I did a Zoom interview and it was like, we didn't record this part, and I was like, oh, what?
Thanks.
Yeah, I was like, what
Thanks
happened?
for letting me know.
And I've heard that like latency with Riverside is maybe better.
It is. It's not as dependent on everybody's like shitty Wi-Fi connection. It has like a pretty advanced cloud, from what I understand.
It's like, oh, okay, this guy's internet sucks. Like,
Yeah.
let's all get staggered to this guy, or like the way it records or something.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it yet. I only just started like offering this service.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have a good pro on being able to bring people like into the studio itself, and the in-person chemistry, you can't really replicate that with any software.
Oh, yo,
online,
being
so.
in the stew, that's what it's all
The
about.
stew.
Yeah, like no latency. So anyway, all right, let's get into it. I always start out the show with the same question, and that is, what was your first concert?
What was my first concert? Oh man. So I went to college in Davidson, North Carolina. So I went to Davidson College, grew up in Chicago here. Aside from that being a little bit of like a culture shock because it was the farthest south I'd ever been, there was like no music there. And I didn't study music in school. It was something that I kind of became like inspired and pulled to from a lot of the music that I was listening to at the time. So my first ever concert was me playing a beat show at one of our like student run like weekly, we called it Live Thursday. And it was mostly a space for like a cappella groups and singer-songwriter type of shows. And then I come in with this like electronic hip hop with like the kick that's, you know, pumping really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I like leased some visuals in the background, and I just knew that no one had seen anything like it from this school, and it was a nice feeling. I was definitely very green at the time. I didn't know how to mix, but it was so fun, and I felt like it was stepping into like this new kind of identity. And it was fun to have brought something very new to that particular school, because I hope that it ended up inspiring other people. Yeah. I was like 20.
Hell
then.
yeah.
I've had better and worse gigs since then.
Hell yeah. So I feel like I might have misguided you slightly. So that was your first gig, right?
Ah, okay.
I should say this because this has happened before. What was the first concert you went to?
The first concert I went to was a show by Of Montreal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very strange, otherworldly experience.
Such a weird band.
Very weird, very
Yeah.
weird. And it was here in Chicago at Talia Hall, and I think I was 17. Like, I had not really been exposed to very much before then, and I didn't have money for concerts.
I get it.
So it was very strange. People were like dressed up in these alien costumes, and they were like submerged in these like plastic bubbles
Really?
on stage.
Dude, what? Is
Yeah.
Of Montreal still making music?
No, I don't know. It was something that, it was like my partner at the time took us to that show. So I had known of one album that was really good, and I haven't really caught up with them since.
That was like one of the first bands that like one of my friends showed me. Like, he knew way more music than I did at the time, and he showed me like Animal Collective and like Of Montreal, and I don't love Of Montreal. Like, now I feel like I'm like, yeah, that maybe that was never my style, but back in the day I was like, this is weird.
It's very weird. Back then I was not like a drug user, but I've had some like very trippy experiences with specific Of Montreal songs, like like deep into
It
deep
feels
into
like an
some
acid
experiences.
trip.
Yeah.
The guy's voice is like so whimsical and weird.
And it's really not like the music that I listen to now
Yeah.
or have ever listened to.
Yeah, so let's talk about like how you got into, because you're like a dope bass player, and I know
Thank you.
you also play keys. And I was actually surprised to hear that you didn't go to school for music. Like, I totally thought that you'd be like, yeah, like I went and did this as like my career, but no, you just like picked up bass. Like, when did that happen?
I mean, I picked up bass in 2020. So
Really?
it was like, I think I got a bass for Christmas in 2019. And then the pandemic hit. I came back home because that was actually the semester that I graduated school. So I had to like move back into my parents' house, and then it was just me and the sister I shared a room with, and that's when I really like started teaching myself bass, and it was kind of more of a coping mechanism.
So
than anything else.
It was like a COVID thing.
Yes, it was very much a COVID thing.
I tried to learn guitar during COVID, got scales and like, started getting okay. I got the calluses and I was like, all right. And I haven't played for a long time. I still just love the sound of it. It's sick. But I'm always like, oh man, I wish I was better. And honestly, I kind of wish I picked up the bass.
Bass, you would think that the skills translate a little bit better between the two. Maybe it might be easier as a guitar player to then pick up the bass. Obviously you have all of the intervals that are the same and like the strings are the same except for the octave that they're in. But I really wish that I could transfer my skills to guitar, because it's like as a bass player I had to get a hang of like the amount of pressure that you have to put to like get the correct pressure. Intonation, and I feel like I just trained myself to be like really like just like pull really hard, so I have like the wrist strength and the joint strength, and that does not translate to guitar. Guitar is so much more like delicate and subtle, and I feel like I have no subtlety in my fingers now.
For sure, it is really delicate. I was just amazed from like starting out with electronic music, and like the first thing I learned was like like synthesizers. Like I was like, I want to learn synthesis, and just to pick up the guitar and have that amplified, it's just insane how I was just amazed by every single time you touch it, it makes a different sound. You're like, what? And you just don't get that. And of course, like other musicians would be like, yeah, duh. But I just remember the feeling that I had. I was like, wow, this is so organic.
Yeah, yeah. The amount of like practice and just like skill that you have to have to shape the tone itself, as opposed to something that has it done for you. Obviously, you can like shape other things to create like the quality of the sound that you're looking for on a synth. But yeah, I love bass. Bass is like, it's really seen me through some shit.
What kind of bass do you have? Because I was like thinking about getting like a cheap like Ibanez, maybe like a Fender or something, like $300 range.
Mine is in the $300 range. Like the one that I started off with probably was like $75, and
it was like, maybe I go 75. Like maybe I'm looking too.
I mean, anything that you then upgrade to after the $75 range is going to be like so much easier to play. Like if you train yourself on something that's really shitty, like you're going to develop so much more strength, because it's going to take so much more strength to create a tone that sounds smooth and not sounding like ass. I think mine is the Yamaha TBRX 30 something.
For sure.
Yeah, but I would love like a big old P bass or J bass one day. That's when I have money.
That's the goal. Is it a 4 or a 5 string?
Oh, it's a 4-string.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was another thing. I was like, I don't know, that like 5th string, it's that deeper note. But then I'm like, I could just get like a sub bass. Like a sub bass in like oscillator, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like hide that underneath.
If your goal is to learn bass to like enhance the quality of your production, you don't need that much. You don't need to like spend a lot of money. If your goal is to get a bass because you want to learn so that you can like perform and be part of a band.
No, that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do that. I don't know. I don't have it. So, you ever feel like some days, and I'm sure that you're just like way more on, like your timing is just real good. And then other days you're just like, my fingers don't work, or like I just can't hit the beat. I don't know. Like I think about drummers. They're so insane. I don't understand how they do that.
Yeah.
And some people are like machines, like where they're really on time or they're loose or whatever. But either way, you have to, hit the right beats. And I just couldn't. It just takes a lot of practice, I'm sure.
It does take a lot of practice. And like, unsurprisingly, my better days are when I've been practicing. And the off days are like, I haven't touched this in like a couple weeks or whatever. It usually tends to fall in that pattern.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So, I mean, I'm just curious because like when I listen to your music, I'm like, oh, music theory. Like I hear it. Like that's how it feels. I'm like, I was actually thinking, because I was listening to your music today, I was like, damn, this is like music that I would like to make.
That's so flattering. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, because like I really want to make just like some chill like hip hop beats to walk around to, but I'm always like, I don't know. I don't know. I just like heard your sounds and I was like, like even just some of the synthesizers you use, I'm like, yeah, like some of the bell tones, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I love. So,
I do like some bell tones. What
There's
about it?
There's one bell tone that it's like that high like glockenspiel type sound.
Yeah.
That's in a lot of your tracks.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Those are good.
Yeah, it came from somebody's sample pack years ago. It was one of the first things that I purchased, and it's kind of like been a constant.
That's a motion sound.
Oh, well, it's not technically my sound because I did take it from somebody's sample pack, but
But I mean, it's become your sound. It's part of your palette.
yeah, I tend to gravitate towards my favorites. Just curious, like, what about, from what you heard today, seems like you say this is the music that you want to make. What about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's like specific things. So I don't know. There's this Carmack song. I think it's called like Chow Fun with Lauryn Hill. Like he puts like Lauryn Hill on top of it. I think it's off the Dime Bag EP, pretty sure. And there's one song that I don't remember which one it was of yours, and I was like, yeah, that's like so similar. And it's like these kind of like dissonant chords. Like your chords are very like jazzy, like neo soul, which I like. And then even some of your synthesizers, like they're kind of like triangle wavy or like whatever. They're kind of just these like glidey things, but then they have some noise in them too. And I'm like, okay, like I don't remember which specific song, but I just remember hearing it. I was like, that's exactly what I do. Like I'll show you some tracks. Maybe there's like a little similarness. But
yeah, I think that would definitely help.
That would help.
Well.
Yeah, for sure. But I just like your bass lines are dope too. We should listen to a track. And honestly, now that we're like talking about them so much, what should we start with? Oh, let's start with what is it called? The one that I texted you about today?
Pedestrian Strut.
Yeah, that one's fire. It's got this like before we play it, Maze, it's got this like Hey Arnold Streets of Rage. You ever play or heard the soundtrack from Streets of Rage? It's like a arcade video game. But the soundtrack.
No, you had me at Hey Arnold, but
okay, yeah, but it's also kind of Hey Arnold. But anything you want to say about this song? Also, Beat Queens.
Yeah. That's what that track was for. God, was this 1 or 2 years ago now? I can't even remember. Yeah, that was just like a really good group of women and femmes and non-binary folks from literally all over the world, and we came together and we created this soundtrack a couple years ago. So this beat was for that. I think I was in college when I made this beat, so it's kind of old actually, and it had been sitting on my hard drive for a minute. And this was just like a good opportunity to resuscitate.
Yeah, let's run this one. And if you want to hear the music in this episode and what we have to say about it, join the Poducer Discord through the link below. It's got that swing. Like, I am gonna make kind of something like you made, but now I gotta make it different because you literally stole it from my brain somehow.
I hate it when people do that. I have this feeling all the time.
Where you hear something and you're like, damn it, I was gonna do that.
Like, I know that came from me, but I just didn't get there first. Fun fact, this song, when I first made it, I had it in my hard drive titled 70s Porn Star.
I could also see that. For sure. That, like, it's got those smooth keys.
Yeah, it's almost like cliche.
Yeah. No, but I love it. I was walking around today, like, just vibing. It was perfect. It was literally perfect.
That's what it asks you to do.
Exactly. You know, I was so excited to like get on mic that I actually forgot to ask you to just introduce yourself. Could you just do that and I'll just put it in?
Put it in?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, my name's Moshun, Moshun. I am a producer, DJ, bass player, kind of keys player, but out of practice recently. Born and raised in Chicago. I play in Chicago often, but I've also played in some other cities. What else?
I think that's good. Welcome. So many things to talk about. I guess, just to finish up the origin story a little bit. When did you, what was your first time starting to make music? Like, did you start with like a beat pad? Because I know that's something you do a lot too. Like, a lot of your stuff is live.
Yeah. I used to make videos a little bit more consistently than I do now, and that was when I was getting pretty good at finger drumming. But back in the beginning, like I said before, there was a lot of music that I was just becoming exposed to when I was in college. There was nobody around me who really did this. Like, there was nobody that I grew up with or who was in school with me that was producing, and so I didn't really register it as something that I could do until I started listening to some key players. But my first experience making beats was in like the one class that my school offered, I guess, and it was more for people who wanted to like mix acoustic music. But I took that up as an opportunity to make some lo-fi, and it was really shitty at the time, but we started with Logic. I started with Logic, and I made a couple shitty beats using Logic. I ended up going on this program at Berklee College of Music, but not the one in the States, actually. So we were in Valencia, Spain for one summer. Ooh. And that's where I picked up Ableton. I had like a really great instructor who just made it so much fun in showing us all of the ways that Ableton is like truly a superior software, and how quickly that he just like pumped out the loops and stuff. Like, I had never felt so energized by something. And I feel like at that point, like, my skill set grew pretty substantially in like 3 months or so. And by that time I was already starting to like put out some music and make some beat videos online, which actually got me like a lot of traction right at the beginning.
I was gonna say, like, when I was talking to Too Soft, he was like, dude, moshun's the OG. I was like, what? And then he was talking about how like you started making videos and that they really took off. Like, what was that like back in that time?
Yeah, it was very unexpected. To be fair, I'm pretty sure that the Instagram algorithm was pretty different back then. So for some reason, like, it wanted to push out some of the like shittily filmed videos that I was making, of some beginner beats that were pretty good for what I knew at the time. So I would make some videos of me finger drumming or adding another element on top of it. And I started posting those, I think, in 2019 or so. And I think in the span of like the first 2 or 3 months, again, that I was like starting to make music, I gained like maybe 8,000 followers.
Wow.
Within the span of a couple weeks. Like, it was so quick. Whoa. And it has very much leveled out since then. But it was also like a catalyst for me meeting a lot of people, both online and in person. So once I was then, back in Chicago on breaks from school, I would start to like dip my toes into like the scene that was happening here. And it was a really slow process of finding out like, where is this stuff happening? Who can I talk to? And it was pretty early on, actually, that I met Too Soft, and he was underage in a bar that we were playing beats in.
Yeah. He was talking about how like he was shouting out some people and being like, yeah, these are the people that like snuck me into the bar.
Yeah.
And I was underage. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me because a lot of people will just put beats out into the ether, never get like very much interaction with them. But I feel like to get so much positive feedback that, I mean, maybe there was negative feedback, maybe there's like, but for so many people to follow you that you're like, oh shit, like I can do this, like, did that, I mean, obviously it affected your trajectory. Like,
I mean, yes and no. There's so much randomness that comes into play with social media. And like I said, like, I do think that the algorithm was a little bit different back then. Like, I don't think that the exposure rates that I was getting back then could be built organically the way that people are trying to do it now. Like, I never paid for any ads or anything. I was just making videos. And I think an important part was that I was showing my face. A lot of people share clips, but they don't like to show their face because they're shy, and it's understandable. But a good way for people to connect with your music is to pair it to a face or a voice, and yeah, just create that association. So that was something that I knew I had to like get past, was my fear of like being visible online, and that's something that has really paid off.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, just seeing a number online, it really doesn't mean anything aside from the fact that I guess in some cases it does give you legitimacy. Like, it's definitely gotten me booked in some gigs that I'm not sure they would have given me a second thought if I didn't have content up, you know.
I saw this thing the other day where this guy was giving advice to DJs, and it was very like, he was just being douchey about it, but he's like, you know, like, make sure to have like rich parents who can pay for your whole career. But one of the things he said was that you know, like, just, he was joking, but he was like, you know, just pay for followers because promoters don't even care to look at if they're real or not. And I was like, I mean, that is true. Like, I mean, maybe there's a level of engagement that any normal person would be like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, you just posted this video, it's got like 10 views. Okay, that doesn't make sense. But you could just get a certain amount of followers. It doesn't even have to be that many to be legit. And then because we judge a book by its cover, it's like, oh yeah, she's legit, or like, he's legit, or whatever.
Perhaps.
I'm not telling people to do this, by the way. I'm
Don't
just saying.
do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that, because anybody who wants to look longer than a second on your profile will see that the engagement rates don't match up with the following. So
Yeah.
and that really like disqualifies you. So it's too big of a risk, I would say. And I don't know, like, maybe it's a little bit hypocritical to be like, numbers don't matter, when people are always like, oh, you have 10,000 followers. I'm like, yeah, but I think people want to see good content and they want to see good music. So I think it's more important that if you're using like Instagram, for example, as like your primary marketing tool, that you have yourself on your feed and you have your music on your feed. And if anybody wants to view it, no matter how many followers you have, if the content is good, that's what's going to get you through the door.
Yeah.
So I'd like to believe that maybe I have both, but
Well, yeah, I think like you were probably putting out cool stuff. People were like, oh, this is cool. Like, I dig these beats. Especially if you're like playing, you know, you're not just like, yo, check out my beat, and then push spacebar.
yeah, and that's why there's a lot of value in like actually making those performance videos. Like, there's so many like internet producers who have gotten very viral just from posting those performance videos on a consistent basis, and now they have like really top tier placements, and they're bigger names, like, you know, Kaylin Ellis and The Count, for example. Like, they were like so consistent on every platform. It was like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, repurposing those performance videos, and like both of them are like so much bigger now than they were when I found them, and it's a really nice thing to witness.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with The Count, and it's just like, dude's insane.
Absolutely insane.
Dude's insane. Have you thought about playing in a band or like playing with other people?
Yeah.
Because the thing, I don't know, like, I feel like, I don't know what the actual numbers are on this, like ratio wise, but like, how many producers just produce in their room and will never play out and like play a real instrument out, versus those who like actually would be able to play in a band and read music and like whatever, or maybe not even read music, but just know how to play their songs that they can play them out?
Yeah. What's the question?
The question is like, basically, yeah, like, I don't know what that ratio is. First of all, I'll just clarify that. But the question was like, would you want to seek playing in a band?
I would. I have played in a band before. I mean, I grew up playing keys. That was like my primary instrument. So I've played in jazz combos. I first started in high school, I think, like playing in jazz combos through college. And now with the bass, like, I've played gigs, and I've jammed with people with the bass. It would be really nice if I could incorporate all of those elements into like a really seamless live performance, I feel like. But also just to like make it clear, nobody's any like more or less legitimate whether you play an instrument or not. As a producer, like, there are some cats who are doing like really, really crazy things and they've never picked up an instrument in their life. And I know that they're like so much better than I am.
I mean, there's certain things I don't even know how you would do live.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to do your like 808 bends live? Although with the new push, with like the MPE thing, like gliding, I don't know. I've heard it's pretty cool.
I'm sure there are a lot of ways. I mean, like, it just depends on how much gear you're willing to lug out to your shows. I think that's honestly been like a big like obstacle for me because I don't have a car. So when I go to gigs, I'm usually constrained by what I can carry on my back.
Yeah.
So that's why I haven't like combined as many elements into my live sets. Like, and also this year, like, I have been making more space for DJing actually than producing. So this is, yeah.
Doing the DJ thing. I understand the life. Mace, any questions percolating over there in that handsome brain of
I'm
yours?
just soaking this all in, you know.
I was just curious.
I think it's really cool to be able to incorporate, you know, instrumentation in your productions. I think that it kind of shines through when you don't really have, like, we'll say you're programming stuff in kind of how you were saying, like finger drumming is just a lot more natural for you. And I hope you at least get the chance to explore doing like a real live setup, because I've started to go kind of down this DAW-less, we'll say down this DAW-less road of just kind of buying gear and messing around with it a little bit. And whatever you can do to take away programming from a live setup where you're not like, okay, I need, you know, I have a launch pad and you put all your clips in, you know, 1, 2, 3 through 8 all the way down. Whatever you can do to incorporate just a little bit of, you know, spontaneity is fun. And yeah, absolutely. I have been using the APC 40 Mark II. There you go.
For beat sets. And again, since I said like I'm transitioning more into like a DJing role and I kind of want to use the DJ equipment to also then play beat shows, because I've just been like so much more interested in like the transitions and the mixes.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know what that would look like yet for me, because I have all these like kind of disparate skills, and it would just like, yeah, it would take a lot of planning.
Some of the new DJ mixers have more pads on them too, for like if you want to get a little technical with it.
Yeah, I think the one that I use has like a couple of banks of pads, and it has like all of the like onboard effects that are pretty basic. But yeah, it would be nice if I was doing more kind of like live looping and adding elements in live, the way that like Kink does.
Oh, you
know?
brought up Kink.
I'm not even
That's the
familiar.
rabbit hole I've been going down, because he's got his I just looked it up. I forgot what the name of it was, but like the Wii remote almost, where he's able to hold down a button and play different drums by like playing
what?
it. Oh my god. So I'll send you guys the set.
Please.
Maybe we'll post it in the description or something, but he starts, you know, plays something off Ableton, walks into the crowd with a wireless keyboard and plays a couple things and loops it, walks back,
I think
grabs
I saw
another
this,
instrument,
dude.
runs out in front of the crowd and starts playing. Like, it's something
crazy.
special.
That's
yeah.
insane.
I just watched Zoe 102. I don't know if anyone should watch it, but there's this girl in it that's like, I'm a producer, and her name's Melody or something like that. And she's, you know, like the gloves that like Emojin Heap, or I think that she used them, but like where you can like control almost like a, what is it called? That weird instrument, the
Yeah.
what is it called?
Theremin?
Theremin. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but just like you just have these gloves and you can, it's like a MIDI controller and you can like change stuff. I was like,
So
That's pretty
magic.
cool.
yeah, so basically magic. Yeah.
Well, the first one I saw of that was Robert DeLong, if you guys are familiar with him. He had a couple songs on the radio maybe in like 2015 or something. I saw him at Man Beyond the Beach, and he came out with a full drum set, a whole big like computer table with a whole bunch of different synthesizers and stuff. He had a Wii remote, he had a joystick, he had some crazy mouth controller or something that he was like manipulating sounds with his mouth while he was like playing.
Whoa.
There's some weird stuff out there that you can just kind of like, I don't know how I would use it, but like if you buy it and mess around with it, you might like come up with something like, I don't know.
Yeah, no. The closest thing I would actually like invest in to that is like a talk box. I've always thought that those things are sweet, but I don't know. I'm not trying to be like
Very
Peter
retro.
Frampton. Yeah. Speaking of gigs, I saw that you played North Coast, the Chill Dome. Is that what it's called? How was that?
That was probably the best gig I've ever had.
You think?
Yeah, and it was about 1 year ago, actually. Just because of the quality of, like, the visuals. Like, I'd never been in such a space that valued the visual part of it so well. And the sound system was incredible. Like, it was literally just, like, a dome the size of, like, a football field. Just completely circular over the top. And just these lasers that were projecting all kinds of, like, shapes and movements and colors, and, like, it also responded to what I was playing. So I was in like a smaller dome in the middle of all of this.
That's very cool.
And I could just like look out and see kind of like you're tripping and looking into the night sky type of stuff. And like that was a good opportunity for me to play a lot of the music that I wouldn't normally play live, because I have stylistically like some corners that I feel comfortable in. And usually when I play live in like a bar or something, my goal is to get people up and to be a little bit more of an energizing space. But this was an opportunity for me to play a lot more of the down-tempo stuff, like kind of the more like just sheer like trippy lullaby beats.
I love lullaby beats. I think that's probably why I like your music. Yeah.
Very like piano-based. Like New Jubbies is a really big influence of mine.
Love him.
So, yeah, I think that was probably the best gig I've had to date.
I heard, or we're going to North Coast on Sunday, and I think Fess is playing, and I want to check that out. Like,
you should. It's so nice because you get to sit, you get to lay. Like, it was really nice to look out and see people just laying on their backs.
Like taking a break.
Yeah. Tripping on God knows what, you know?
For sure, yeah.
And I think that's so important. But yeah, Fess was actually the one who having a safe space to trip in peace, actually. But Fess was the one who got me that gig last year. I think he was offered it and he couldn't do it. So he hit me up. He's actually gotten me a few gigs. He's been really good at like pulling upwards.
That's awesome. For people who don't know, Fess, is it Grandois? Like, is that how you say it? Is it like French, or is it like Grand? I don't know. It's like Doise.
That's how I say it in my head.
Yeah.
Grandiose, but I don't want to butcher
Grandiose
it.
Sounds a little grandiose, but like,
That's it in writing, so.
Yeah, it's true. But anyway, he's the guy who runs Open Beats at Dorian's, which you've also played.
Yeah. And Open Beats at Cafe Mustache.
Oh.
Yeah.
They do. Is it the same Open Beats, or it's like a different?
Yeah, so he only switched to Dorian's like in the last year or so.
Okay.
I like for Dorian's. Several years before then, he was in Cafe Mustache, so I played that one a few times over the years. Yeah, Dorian's is a little bit newer.
It's a cool vibe in there.
Yeah, I don't feel like they play the music loud enough, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really tell on stage either.
Well, on stage, the monitors are pretty bad, too.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what I was doing. I was like... Then again, I literally just played links off SoundCloud from Care's computer. I was like, yeah, dude, like, I don't have any equipment. He's like, it's cool. I was like, all right.
Very low stakes.
It was super low stakes. Like, yeah. But cool guy, got me into, like, some of these beat community scenes, and, like... Chicago has a crazy beat community. Yes,
and it's growing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Me too. Yeah. So like, how does it, differ between, there's a couple other, like gigs, or not gigs, but like shows. Let's talk about Mouthfeel, because I'm not really familiar what that is. And also I want to talk about Beats on the Beach. Like, how do the sets differ between these, for you, like when you play these events?
Well, I mean, the first thing is I'm DJing those. I haven't really incorporated my own music into those sets yet. just because I'm nervous. Maybe I will one day, but it's hard to find a place for your own music when you're also then spinning like anybody else's music. I find it's hard to like
feel the exact same way.
It's hard to know where your stuff belongs. And that way, yeah, DJing has been a little bit easier for me recently because it's less of like an identity crisis and more of just like I'm just sharing fun music that I know.
I've had the other end identity crisis where you're just like, none of this music is mine. What am I doing? I'm literally just walking Spotify. But I mean, okay, like that's not exactly what's happening.
I could see that perspective as well. Yeah. I just like any situation where you're curating the atmosphere of the room. So Mouthfeel is our recent residency with Easy Does It in Logan Square. So it's me and a handful of other Chicago DJs, Ben Forever and Synchronized Swimming. So those are the people who I play with. We're every fourth Friday, and it's pretty much all like house and dance and disco music all night.
Nice.
And I'm usually like the opening slot for that night, so my responsibility as I understand it is to kind of like bring people up from we're sitting enjoying our cocktails and our wine to now we're on the dance floor and the disco ball is on. So that has been just a really, really lucky gig that I landed on as a beginner DJ. I think because I had already had a lot of experience with gigs in the beat scene, it was easy for me to then transition into like, now I'm a DJ and I bring my USB to gigs.
Yeah.
And then Beats on the Beach is something a lot more DIY, so there's no formal paperwork there, but it's really just me and Tango, who you've had on the show, and another DJ friend of ours, DJ Randpa. We're all Rogers Park locals, and we noticed that there was definitely like a dead zone up there in terms of like live music, so we wanted to just create like a kind of like a public community type of event. So we literally just like put all of the gear that's sitting on my balcony into the wagon and we pull it out onto the beach, into the grassy area actually. But we feature DJs and artists from underrepresented communities on our sound system. It's like every other week or so while the weather's still good, and it really attracts the attention of just people who are like walking their dogs.
Like, oh shit, that's lit.
Yeah, it's a really fun time to get together with friends and also get to know our neighbors a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's cool. I haven't gone, but I've seen videos and I'm like, oh, that looks wholesome.
It's very wholesome. And now we have like our like lights when it gets dark out, because the sun's setting a little bit earlier now than it was at the beginning of the summer. So the person who gets like the after dark set gets all these like crazy lights on them, so it literally looks like a rave on the beach.
That's dope. Is there any plans for when it gets like actually too cold?
We're gonna meet up and talk about that soon. Yeah, because I feel like we'd have to change our name. It's like we are Beats on the Beach, but
in the snow.
I don't know, Beats inside.
Yeah.
For the winter time.
Or you could be crazy and do it in the snow, but then no one would be there.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that idea.
I'm not either. I'm just saying you could be crazy.
It already felt crazy the one day we did it, and it was like...
Oh, there was like a storm, right?
We've canceled when there's been storms, but there was one day that we did it and it was just like really cold and windy, like uncharacteristically. I think it was like 58 degrees and really windy, and everyone was just like...
We didn't dress properly.
Yeah, nobody dressed properly.
Yeah. I got some questions from some friends to ask you. Let me pull up Kara's question. He said to ask about the big three.
Oh, big three is our little trio between me, Tango, and Care.
Oh, okay.
Because we are very close in the music scene and just in our personal lives. Like, those are some of my very first, like, real friends in the beat scene. So we've played a few shows together, and we actually, all three of us went to Philly last year to play a show with some connections that Tango had out there. So that's the name of our group chat.
The big three.
Yes, and we send pretty horrible memes.
It's a safe space for that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I have a quick question. What is something that you listen to regularly that people would be surprised about? Just by knowing you as an artist, what do you like to listen to that is going to be a little surprising?
Vivaldi, dude.
Vivaldi.
I don't know. This is the first.
No,
thing
like
that came to mind.
Slipknot or like, you know, Megadeth or something.
I'm like trying to remember anything that I listen to right now because there's just so much.
Yeah, it's like asking who's your favorite, you know, artist, and you're like, oh my god, well, I love this person, or yeah.
I mean, you know, I began any relationship with music through playing classical piano, and I was playing a lot of concerts when I was growing up, so I really loved like Debussy, like that kind of like impressionism era.
Do you like Satie?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm not as familiar, but
he's got like 2 songs. The rest
Like,
of them are like
two.
well, like I've listened
Maybe
to
I
his
have
other
all
stuff.
2.
It's like real dissonant. I'm like, all right. But yeah, Debussy is beautiful.
I'm trying to think, man. I mean, I just love all of that old school, like anything 70s, anything that your favorite artist samples. I love all of that.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I got a question from Too Soft now.
Do I get to pay it forward and ask other people questions?
Yeah, we can do that. But he said, it's kind of piggybacks off what you were saying, but why you picked the genre that you did. What would you say? Is it lo-fi? Or like, is that...
If I'm talking to somebody who's not musical, then I will say lo-fi, because I feel like it's the most accessible. I mean, my music ranges from like 70 BPM to 150 sometimes. So like I have a wide range, and it's hard to just call it one thing, but I'm inspired by a lot of house and electronic and ambient and funk and soul and anything groovy. So gotcha. I pay a lot of attention to rhythms and melodies and chords and how those things interact with, you know, amongst themselves.
Gotcha. What I wanted to ask about was Bad Snacks. You said that she was a mentor in some ways. How did that relationship start?
I forget how I found her, but when I stumbled across her music and her SoundCloud and also saw that she made like YouTube content, and she was like so visible as a woman. That was something that like really drew me in, and her music is just so singularly amazing. Like it's unlike anything I've ever heard, and she seems to be incredible at everything she touches. Like everything she touches turns to gold. So I reached out to her probably back in 2018, 2019, and we did a couple of like Zoom lessons together for a few months, and she actually ended up like subletting a room in her LA apartment to me.
Oh wow.
When one of her roommates moved out. So there was a summer that I was in LA, and I was playing like Beat Cinema and Beats Freaks and Geeks, and really like immersing myself in the scene that they have there. So yeah, she's been an enormous like role in my development, and we just saw each other recently. She came and played a show in Chicago, and yeah, that's when we see each other.
A couple questions here. I mean, like, how was LA? Did you like it out there?
Yeah, not the earthquake part, but
that part sucked.
Yeah, that part really sucked. I just realized that I didn't have like any knowledge of what to do in that situation. I haven't like grown up with
and you were
those.
just like, oh, what the fuck? Like,
yes, no, literally, I sat through a 7.1 and a 7.8 on the Richter scale. I believe.
That seems high. I don't know.
It was pretty high. Like the first one was like a little bit of a rumble, and the second one lasted for like 5 or 10 seconds, and I saw like the hangers in my room, like in the closet, going back and forth. So that was just, it was a scary moment. I was like, I don't need to live here, do I?
What are you supposed to do?
I think you're supposed to get under something sturdy.
Okay.
So like if I had a desk that was pretty sturdy, then I would crawl under there, but I didn't know at the time. This is something I found out afterwards.
Falling, it would be like, all right, this is okay.
Or like, I don't know, if the foundation literally cracks underneath you.
Problem with earthquakes, yeah, is literally you're just like, well, everything is shaking, so like I can't.
At a
do
certain point, you
much.
just have to surrender, I guess.
Mm.
But the
You just accept it as like a nice little massage. You're like, "Ooh,
massage.
yeah.
That's really optimistic. That's a really positive way
I
of
try to
framing
flip
it.
things, yeah.
But no, the scene in LA, I mean, whew, it's as good as they say. I mean, I felt like it was everywhere, and maybe it was just because I was so lucky to like know people out there who could point me towards the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like a lot of collaborating out there. A pro and a con is like everyone wants to network, you know, like
For
not
sure.
anybody
That's
is
the
just
other
there
thing you
doing
hear.
regular things. Like everybody has their hustle and their passion, and everybody's trying to like push it. And that I could see how that gets like really exhausting after a while,
For sure.
because nobody's normal there. Like everyone is the best of their kind,
Mhm.
you know. So that kind of like comparison game, I think, could be like really motivating for some and like really detrimental for
Yeah,
others.
you're like, dude, I suck. Or so, you know what I mean? Like you'd be like some people would feed off it and be like, yeah. Like,
yeah, and I think for me it would really just depend on what mood I'm in, you know.
For sure.
I think I could totally go through phases there. But like I remember finding myself on this like rooftop brain feeder party. So
Sick.
like
That sounds dope.
I was there with Thundercat and Flylo and Teebs. And also, I'm not sure if you were aware of her,
Teebs is sick.
but Teebs is sick. So Teebs was spinning that night. And then I remember I made like quick eye contact with Flylo. It was just like a,
You're like,
I was like, oh.
damn. Wow.
And also Salami Rose Joe Lewis. I don't know if
Oh,
you're aware of
yeah.
her, but like she was
She's
playing
dope.
live that day.
Wow.
And I just felt like so fortunate to be there. I felt like such an insider, and everybody just like knows everybody. Everybody is like one or two connections away from your absolute idols. And it's so normal there.
Mm-hmm.
So like coming in from the outside, it's like a weird thing to get used to.
Yeah, you're like, what? Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, I'm sure it was a huge advantage to be with Bad Snacks, like, you know, like, right? Like that helped. I'm sure. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, like, she was mostly doing her own thing. I was mostly doing my own thing.
Yeah.
She helped in that she was, like, pointing me towards some good shows that were going on, or she'd just, like, take me under her wing and take me out and introduce me to some people, which was really nice.
yeah.
Do you guys have any collabs?
We don't. We're definitely in different, we're in different parts of the hierarchy. I feel like she's just like a lot farther along than I am, especially when I was in LA. Like I was very much a beginner. And so I never asked. Maybe I should have asked, but no, we don't
Maybe
have collabs.
one day. What do you think the most important thing she like mentored you about was?
Just to give less of a fuck overall, probably. Like I think when I was talking to her, a lot of the like stuff I was going through was like the visibility thing, and also just like horrible comments and DMs and just like harassment online from like getting all of that attention in a quick amount of time. She also taught me that I don't have to respond to everyone, which is something that I'm very glad that I let go of quickly. And that like you're not missing out on the opportunity of a lifetime just because like a dusty guy with 40 followers wants to collaborate with you.
Dusty? He's just like, I'm ashy. And you're like, what? You got to work on that.
Yeah, like you don't need to answer the collab bros.
For
okay.
sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, like, I don't want to focus on this. We talked about this because I feel like if you want to go check this out, like Ben Jordan, if you're not familiar with him, he makes great videos, and he made a video basically about, like, why aren't there that many female producers? And as our honorary first female producer on the show, thank you, by the way, I just kind of wanted to dig into this a little bit, and I don't know. I mean, it's just a complicated thing, but I don't know. I guess like one of my questions was like, what are other female artists you look up to? And that's, you know, you talked about Bad Snacks, but are there any other people out there that, you know, you'd like to shout out that have maybe you've talked to or just have been like, wow, I like the way that they carry themselves?
Sarah the Instrumentalist was pretty big for me, just like learning initially on YouTube, because like her brand is so like down pat and she's just like a content machine. Yeji is really awesome. I haven't actually met her, but I did see her tour when I was in Seattle earlier this year. Trying to think of some others. I'm like drawing a blank right now, but there are really so many others, and I would want to like personally send you a list after this.
Yeah, for sure.
Just for your own reference.
Yeah, I'd love to have that list. The other question I was thinking is like, for a female producer that's thinking about getting into music or starting to produce, what's like a piece of advice that you would give them? I mean, would it be that same advice, like just don't give a fuck, don't pay attention to the comments?
I mean, it'd be a little naive to be like, just don't pay attention, because we're going to, and we're human, and that's not like what we're built to do, is just like ignore all of that. There is a lot of like personal stuff to overcome when you start to become visible, and especially when you start to enter like very male dominated spaces, especially spaces that are like social spaces, alcohol spaces, and the script there is more of a like flirty script rather than a networky script. And
So are you saying that like, you're not saying to be flirty?
No, I'm saying that when you are performing and networking in spaces that are mostly male, in bars where there's a lot of alcohol that's being distributed, and that's just like the nature of the music scene, is like all those things go together. You entering that space and trying to have like good, either friendly or business like connections with people, I'd say just like trust your gut off the bat, because it's pretty clear when you talk to a man who has never really associated with women as equals. There's just like a tone of voice that changes, and there's you kind of feel like a sense of what's it called? You feel like you're being fetishized a bit. I've definitely had that experience happen to me. So I would just say there's really no point in ever doing anything you're uncomfortable with. There is no opportunity that you're missing out on because you don't feel comfortable collaborating with somebody who's like giving you an icky feeling. And also just like, there's like a lot of things, you know, it's so complicated.
Literally, if this can like touch one other girl that's like, I don't, you know, they were not sure. Like if this can help like one person, I feel like it's valuable.
Yeah. I think energetically, something that I had to work on was just like my confidence level in walking into these spaces. Cause like, unfortunately, the standard is different, where it's like, I feel like there's less room for mediocrity for women. Like if you're coming in as a woman, you're maybe the only woman on the bill, or you're literally like the only woman in the room. There's not as much room for mediocrity and mistakes, and it makes you feel like you have to know everything and be the best in what you're doing, even though you, like anybody else, have started out as a beginner and need to ask questions in order to improve. And you don't want to confirm a stereotype that exists, and so it makes it difficult then to like learn like what you need.
Tightrope.
But I would just say, like, still don't be afraid to ask questions, because you need to be able to ask questions in order to get what you need from this learning experience as you go into it. And whoever's going to have a problem with that, like, you just make a note of people that you don't feel comfortable around, and you don't be around those people. Like, the more that I have come to terms with like my confidence in these spaces and just like the imposter syndrome that exists, like I literally, before my gigs, more so when I was first starting, but still now, like I'll literally, like, before I enter a room, breathe very deeply. I'll like sit up straight, and I will like just take up a lot of physical space.
Dude, that's so weird. We were literally just talking about
this.
Yeah, we were.
Like like Mace uttered the words, "Be like a beast, like be like as big as you can."
Yeah, and I do believe that, like, for some reason, women are just like trained to not take up that much space and like let other people talk first, and like not be too like aggressive towards people. And unfortunately, I think one of my like coping mechanisms now is like just bringing out a bro-y side of me when I go into these
start
spaces.
saying dude more.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of how I am to begin with. It's kind of more my personality, but, you know, I try to keep things professional when I go into spaces. Like, I remember, God, a couple weeks ago, I had a gig, and the owner of the place, like, kissed me on the forehead afterwards, and I just, like, that felt so incredibly unprofessional to me. I was just like, I'm literally just here to do a job.
What?
And, like,
That's
get
so
paid.
weird.
And he just, like, was really drunk in his own venue, and I went in for, like, a fist bump, as I usually do for, like, people I don't know very well. I honestly try to, like, continue to dap people up, but I feel like it's more of, like, a social code that, like, we hug women and we dap our boys up.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
even that, like, distinction I've always felt a little bit, like, icky about. I'm like, I don't know, I identify as a woman, but when I go into spaces that are music related, especially if I'm, like, there to play a gig, I don't like being reminded of my gender.
For sure.
You know, it's more like, it feels more validating to just be a person.
For sure.
In those spaces. So I don't know if I could wrap that up into, like, an easy piece of advice, but it's definitely something that your tolerance, like, you start to, like, gain more tolerance for over time, but it's really not worth putting yourself into any unnecessary situations just because you feel like there's an opportunity at the end of it. Like, your peace matters more than anything else, and you deserve to have high standards for the people that you interact with.
It feels like there's also, like, a tuning of your radar.
Yes, very much so. And that's why I don't really drink that much anymore.
You gotta be on game. I feel like probably if you're gonna be in a social situation with people who are, you know, in your industry, or, like, people that you could make connections with, probably not drinking is maybe the move.
Oh, yeah?
In general. Yeah, no. Me. Literally, I'm like, you guys want some tea? And I just, like, crack a Modelo. I'm like, all right, I'm a degenerate here. One beer, I'm good. I'm chilling. I also am just thinking, like, if you just, like, saw him, like, kiss everyone on the forehead after that, and you're just like, wait, okay, that guy is just weird.
Well,
it wasn't like that, clearly.
Weird to every single woman who was there, and it was like a known thing now. Having had that experience and talking to more people about it, like, it's on everybody's radar, but that was just one of the ickiest things that's happened recently.
Yeah, that's weird. If someone did that to me, I'd be like, brother.
Exactly. It's like,
if I switched it around and a girl kissed me on the forehead, I think I would really think about it and be like, that was so strange.
right.
That would, like,
So there's really no reason.
the forehead
that
is a weird place to kiss.
it felt so intimate and violating, truly.
Yeah, that is very weird. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. Mace, were you going to ask a question? I sensed a breath.
You heard just my little yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it is very interesting to me that dance music feels like it's more dominated by men, when music as a whole doesn't feel like it's as like that, if that makes sense.
Like pop stars and stuff like that?
No, not even
there-
pop stars.
no?
Like any genre I could really think of, maybe aside from, like, hip hop and dance music would be the two that I'd say just, like, I don't know why it is that it just isn't as common to have.
I feel like rap and hip hop makes sense because it's this, like, machismo thing, which is also kind of dumb. Like, talking about, like, killing people and being, like, cool and what. That's just like a peacocking,
cool.
Right?
Like, it's like it's like a peacocking thing. Like, I'm cool. Let me tell you how cool I am because of these things. So I just wanted to say, like, that kind of makes sense. But I know you were asking motion.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't really know if there's a question in this, but, like, do you have an idea on why it's just so overly, like, represented with men in dance music?
In dance music, I don't know. I mean, I've spent the most time physically in, like, more hip hop electronic spaces. I'm not sure if that means dance necessarily.
It's a big encompassing.
Yeah.
I mean, I
right,
feel
like-
like just the worst symptom of that problem is, like, men who view women who come into that space as, like, options.
Like, romantically?
or sexually. It's like, oh, there's a woman in this space, so let me try and, you know, like, and that's kind of like the first, that's like the first impulse. And you can feel that really quickly, where it's like they're just a little bit too interested, or like there's a little bit more like disbelief that I do what I do, and it's such a turn off. But
you can sense the genuine like admiration from the like just very thirstiness of some people, I'm sure.
At this point, like I said,
like,
it begins to get a little bit fetishy, where it's like, oh, you're like you gotta be like my dream girl who makes beats or something. And it's just really gross.
That's so weird to me, because it's just like, I would not want to date someone who also makes music. I'd be like, let's do separate things that complement each other. Maybe I don't want to be like in competition. I mean, of course, if they were really cool and made great music, whatever, it can work out.
DJs and producers are married to each other, at least in techno, but I don't know how well that
I'm just saying, me
over.
personally, I'd be like, you know, we don't have to only focus on music over here, but
I feel it more as like a sexual advance. Honestly, that hasn't been an issue recently, but like except for the fucking kiss on the forehead. But I think I don't have the answers.
No,
of course.
I could imagine though, like especially in the beginning, that you'd be like, oh well, you know, like maybe I do this thing or whatever. Like, again, we're not going to try to harp on this for too long, because literally, like, watch Ben Jordan's video. It talks about almost all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing I really actually thought was interesting about that was how, like, when some of the producers featured in that were asking about questions about like engineering more, that guys were kind of just like mansplaining or just like telling them that it's too difficult or something. And it's like, I went to Colombia and there were some fucking kick-ass chicks that were like way better than me, like, and I think having that experience like was definitely good, but I was like, what? That is so weird. Also, I just hate people that mansplain, even like people that do, like dudes that do it to me. I'm just like, dude, I'm not an idiot. Like, I get it. You're like telling me basic stuff here.
Yeah, I guess men will also do it to other men. I think it's just, you know, I don't think women are the only people who are like on the receiving end of this kind of bullshit. You know? It is funny though, because like the career path of like coding and engineering was at its beginning a very female dominated space, and it was seen as a little bit more like menial labor and priced as such. But as more men started to become interested in the field, then it becomes more of like a legitimized field that gets paid more. So I just find that interesting. It's like, oh, these are like the hard sciences. It's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, just don't. I don't know, man. It's weird. Anyway,
it's science with monster trucks, basically. We love monster trucks.
All right, let's move on to some more music. Let's actually go to some of the whips / unreleased tracks. Is there anyone in particular that you'd like to play, and is there anything you want to say about it beforehand?
Ooh, what are the three I sent you again?
We got Exfoliate, It's Not Ova, and Treat.
Let's play Exfoliate.
Nice.
Is this just about a proper skincare regimen?
Yeah.
How important that is?
I'm not sure if you would be able to visualize it as easily as some of the other ones, but
yeah, and just like in the bathroom. I'm very visual when it comes to music. That's why I think your naming is like good, because it gets you in a setting.
This
like it's like telling you what to do. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, yeah.
I do see that for some of them, maybe not so much for this one, but
okay. And if you want to hear the music in this episode and what we have to say about it, join the Poducer Discord through the link below. Let me go into my questions really quick just to make sure we're not missing anything. Mace, how long have we been going?
We're about, how do I do math? Oh, coming up on an hour 30.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're at a good place. One of my questions was just like, kind of, I guess, talking about what we were saying before is like, what do you want your listeners to get out of like the music? Like, what, I don't know, like if it's like a setting, like are you trying to bring them like to a peaceful place? Like, I mean, maybe it's song to song, but in a general sense, like the ethos of like, why do I create? Why do I want people to listen to this?
I want my listeners to get butterflies and epiphanies.
Like
Nice.
thinking music, or maybe
More
not thinking.
feeling. It's more of
Okay.
a feeling. Like I want to give them tingles. Like I want the hair to stand up, you know?
Yeah. The goosebumps.
That's what I
Yeah.
want.
Okay. Cool.
It's a good way to look at it.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking forward, any exciting projects on the horizon? Could be gigs that you're trying to play, could be music that you're trying to release. Anything in the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to constantly promote Mouthfeel and Beats on the Beach, because those are like the two consistent gigs that I've been a part of for the past few months, and they're gonna stick around for a while. So I definitely want to like grow our attendance for those events. In terms of like music that I make, you know, you've caught me at an interesting point. Like I've been kind of taking an extended break for a few reasons this year. So like my goal for myself is just to kind of find more love in it again. I feel like I've kind of like strayed away from the magnetism that I would get from it. And it's like every time that I've sat down to make something, there's just been all of this like resistance and like just not feeling very good about it. So I think it's important that I like release a little bit of my like the expectations I have for like something I sit down, I'm going to make it, and then it's going to lead to this, this, and this. Like I feel like I make the scope really too big in my head when I sit down. So I've been taking a little break, and I don't feel guilty about it. It's been like really nice and refreshing. So I think I'm just about ready to like dip my toes back in, and I want to have a couple of singles on the horizon for later this year. But I don't have anything solid to promote there. Just DJ gigs. I'm really in my DJ era right now.
For sure. Couple things. I mean, I definitely understand that, where like I made something the other day and I was thinking about like, what is this going to be? Like, how am I going to use this?
How does it fit into everything else?
Yeah, like I need to like make something out of this versus maybe just like having a session and being like, yeah, I didn't get anything.
Like, what if it was just fun?
Yeah.
What if it was just some stupid shit that was fun?
But that's the problem, is when you're framing it like I need to get something out of this, you're just like, I wasted like 3 hours just like fucking around and didn't come out with a bounceable thing. You know? I definitely understand what you're saying. What's like the game plan in terms of promotion? Because like you were saying, like the algorithm's different. Like what do you think would be a better same thing?
Fuck if I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's same.
I mean, I think that's the question all of us have. From where I sit right now, I feel a bit jaded about that whole like promotion process, just because of how like exhausting social media feels in this moment. I do think it's important to tell people that you have things coming out more than once. I think a lot of us are guilty of like dropping something, we mention it once, maybe twice, and then we feel like we're bothering people if we mention it more than that. So I know that for myself, I'm gonna have to like work on continuously reminding people that something is there, probably revealing different parts about like the backstory of that piece or why it's important. I will probably want to go back to like making actual performance videos, because those do really well. They're a pain in the ass to make, but they do feature your strengths. You don't have to be an instrumentalist to make like good videos.
You can show the process even after you've made it or something.
Yeah. Just like do your best to make something like visually appealing. And it sucks that we have to play the game of like vying for people's attention. And literally these platforms are designed to like shorten our attention spans and rot our brains. It's honestly hard for me to like come up with a game plan like that, because right now where I'm sitting, like what I want is to like make something that I like I want to make more music for me and less for other people in this stage of my like career. So I may not even be the best person to ask this question right now, but you know, maybe this time next year I'll have a much better one.
Maybe the social media game will be different too.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
we'll have like shorter shorts.
I know.
It's like literally 2 seconds. That's all you get. That would be
almost
horrible.
It's like the reason that like TikToks that are shorter than 10 seconds get the most engagement.
It's bad.
It's so horrible for us.
Something we're actually going to be doing is like we're calling it Under the Hood, and it's going to be like, you know, we like call you on whatever service and take a deeper look into a project. So like maybe I feel like it's good to, you know, if you're going to promote something, to have different angles to look at it. Like if you keep just posting the song and it's like just the same visual and the same thing, you're like, okay, yeah, I saw that. But if you can come back and be like, oh, okay, like here's another way to look at it, here's a deeper look at it. If you ever wanted to do something like that, we're gonna start doing that. So
I want to see those chains.
Yeah, we want to see those chains.
That's so funny. I mean, I'll have shows and like people will come up to me. Honestly, it was Too Soft recently. Like we played a Reset show and he came up to me and he's like, "Did you do XYZ on this like chain of the bass?" And I'm like, "No." He'd be so
It's like, no, you saturated it with like 12 drive,
so
right? Like, come on, I hear
disappointed
it.
actually.
Literally
If you
just a
looked into
limiter.
my sessions, like I feel like my strength is, you know, finding good chords, melodies, and like the percussion, like the rhythmic aspects of it. But like when it comes to my mixing, I've found overall that less is better. Always, because I will work myself up into like, God, like such a frenzy of version 12, 15, 18. And it's like when I actually just take away all of that stuff, suddenly it sounds better.
The first one sounds better.
Right. So less is more is my mixing philosophy. And I think if you looked under the hood, you'd be like, oh, that's not that much.
And maybe, yeah, I don't know. We're toying with the idea still. We got to do it. But I mean, definitely like if your frequencies and everything, like the chords you're playing are not like covering up other frequencies and stuff, like
as long as
you
you
don't have
gain
to do as
stage,
much mixing.
As long as your volume, like, as long as you gain stage, then you can EQ and then maybe compress stuff.
Yeah, that's why we don't get too technical on the podcast, because it's just like, there's so many YouTube videos for that.
Yeah, it's true. I also, I don't have too much like
keys, sauce, like whatever. Yeah, like here's what you gotta do. You gotta,
I would love to dive more into that, for sure. But I think my attention span when I work is like, I just want to make something like beautiful, and that comes more from like the melodic elements than some very specific parameter on one knob of this plugin, you know?
Yeah, and certain genres definitely lend themselves more to like getting really technical, like whatever. Like
that's why like the real EDM heads, like I'm always so like intimidated by, like they're the ones who have the monster chains.
They're the ones that they got the multi compression, multi-band compression down to a T.
And you see their macros are like automating by themselves and stuff. And I'm like, whoa.
That's dope. Yeah, for sure.
But that's like, I feel like this is my hot take. Something that at least I do, not really having an instrument background and not really have any kind of classical training, I try and compensate with your effects, right?
I wouldn't call that compensation though. That's just a different instrument.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. It's just a different approach of doing things, and you're going to really highlight your, I will say, like movement throughout the track, your motion, if you will.
Yeah, that was actually a good thing you brought that up before we finished. Why motion?
Life is motion. We're constantly in motion. The world is moving as we speak. And I don't want to be stagnant in my life. I think it's always important to be improving something, not to the extent where we're putting ourselves into like a grind set, because I'm really not a proponent of that, but I do think it's important to have self-awareness and have some progression through our own lives.
Do you feel like there's any fear of stillness? Because that's like always something that, like with meditation, it's like stillness.
You know, we could go back and forth on that too, because then on the other hand, I also think it's important to like be content and to feel like you have everything you need. And I feel like, I don't know why, especially like in the producing space, there is such this like hustle mindset where you have to work on this shit like X number of hours per week and you have to crank out X number of beats in a day. And it's just like, I don't know. We're all so like focused on a goal, but I think I want to be more like process based and like just trust that the processes I have and like the time that I put in will get me to where I need to be, not necessarily where I think I want to be.
For sure. That's almost like both at once. Like you're in motion, but you're in the moment of it.
Yeah, maybe that should be my side project.
In the moment. Is it any reason that it's spelled differently?
I just wanted to be different.
Just wanted to be different. Okay, yeah, I was just curious. Cool. Well, I always do a wrap-up question, and that is, what was the most impactful concert you've ever been to? Like something you saw that you were just like, damn.
Oh, so many.
So many, yeah.
So fortunate to live in Chicago, especially. Just like, there's so much good music out there. Mm-hmm. I gotta say, it was the Mind Design show last year.
That was I think Tango's too.
Yeah, we were there together. Oh. Yeah, we were there together. Understandably, though, it really changed my life. Like, I mean, Mind Design has probably been like my number one influence from the start. Just having like the keys chops and the sampling chops, and for everything to be so flowy and cohesive, but also groovy. And he does incorporate the instrumentalism very well with the electronic. And it was really just some of the most beautiful shit I've ever heard in a live setting. Like, yeah, I would relive that one if I could.
For sure. What's like some top artists right now that you're just like really fucking with?
Can I pull up my own Spotify to remind myself? Once again, it's just sheer volume, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I've been listening to... Yeah, let me, like, look at mine. Because I ask these questions, but I never turn it on to myself.
Jungle, man. Everyone is so obsessed with Jungle now. I admit, I had been sleeping on them for a minute. Like,
Did that just pick up? Like, because
have you seen the music video?
No.
Mm-mm.
It's very much trending on TikTok right now, but, like, Volcano, their most recent album... it's the Back on 74 track, like the corresponding choreography for that.
They always have great dancing.
Yeah, because they use like the same dance company apparently. So definitely having a jungle moment. I think a lot of people are. So that's.
I'm having a Bonobo moment.
Ooh, Bonobo was also an amazing show that I went to last year. And it was just a ticket that somebody had and gave it to me for free.
Nice.
So I was just like there at the like very front, and I felt like I was at a festival. Like I really hadn't known like what he did, and that's somebody who just has the entire range. It's like crazy. Orchestral and electronic and rave, and then like the luscious like melodic sound. It's really everything.
He's playing a show with Thievery Corporation at Radius, and I was like, that would be a cool show. The only time I saw him play, which is kind of an uncharacteristic set, was a DJ set at the Mid.
What?
Yeah.
You're shitting me.
But it was so like something you wouldn't hear at the Mid that it was probably one of my favorite shows I've ever seen there. The Mid's like notorious for like after the main act goes on, it's just like rhythm. You're just like, oh fuck, or just like hard trap. And you're just like, okay.
I missed him recently. I know he had a show with Toki Monster.
Oh, Toki Monster.
Toki Monster, that's another really dope female producer. Absolutely. Gum MP3. That's the one I just discovered recently. I've been doing a lot of. I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it.
Go check them out.
You'll have to find out for yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just been gathering a lot of music for like my DJ sets, definitely. So I've definitely been having like a good old housey time. A lot of Disclosure.
Love. I just found that song where it's like the one they did with Zed. It's like, you gotta let go if you wanna be free. I don't know. I like didn't know that one.
I don't think I know that one either.
It's good. Their new album is cool too. It's like almost a little bit more like UKG, which they have done. It's a little faster.
Harvey Sutherland. It's been a recent one.
Okay. Yeah, okay. We don't normally ask this question. We should do this more.
Yeah, for sure.
We all learn as we go. Cool. Well, we did it. We did the thing.
We did it.
Any shout outs before we let you go?
Shout outs. Shout out Big 3.
Shout out
I
Big
didn't
3.
know I was going to be talking about Big 3 today. Shout out Fess. Fess is a real one. Definitely like very, very prominent figure in the beat space. Has done a lot of work for me personally to like get me some good gigs that have led to some other gigs. Shout out Bad Snacks. Shout out Mom.
Gotta do it. All right. Well, with that, we gotta find a way to end this shit.
Yeah.
With that, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys are having a good morning or night, whatever time of day it is. We'll see you.
Very cute.
See you another time. Peace.
Peace.